I'm Richard Brekelmans, and you're listening to Sweet Success.
You've just checked in to Sweet Success. Join me, Katie Cline, for exclusive conversations with hotel executives, hospitality leaders, and industry innovators. Together, we'll uncover the strategies and techniques these masters of hospitality relentlessly refine. Whether you're already in the industry or just starting out, tune in every week to unlock the secret to your sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Success. I'm your host, Katie Cline, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Richard Brekelmans to the show. Richard is a seasoned hospitality executive with more than 3 decades of senior leadership experience at both Marriott International and Starwood Hotels and Resorts. He was most recently the managing director of Marriott's luxury and lifestyle hotels in Europe, and prior to that, the regional vice president of Southern Europe for the company. But I first met him many moons ago when he was the general manager of W Barcelona, leading the opening of the city's hottest hotel in 2009. As of 2025, though, Richard just launched RICHMANS Hospitality Advisory, a boutique firm which offers advisory, consultancy, and asset management services to hotel owners, operators, and investors. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Katie. Well, it's a great pleasure to reconnect with you to start with, but also a big thank you for inviting me to your amazing podcast. I watched a couple and I listened to a few and I really enjoyed it. So really pleased.
Oh, thank you. That means so much coming from you. It's so lovely to see you again. And I just can't wait to hear more about RICHMANS, given all of your amazing experience. But before we talk about that, I want to back up a little bit. I'm hoping you can take me back in time to what attracted you to the hospitality industry in the first place and how you ended up leaving your native Netherlands.
Well, actually, my parents were in the hospitality business. So my dad was a chef. He spent a big part of his youth sailing on the Whole of America line. And he actually was in Cuba when Castro's guerrillas entered Havana in 1959 and, saw big parts of the world. And that somehow always inspired me enormously and gave me that desire to travel. But when he came back, he started his own businesses, opened up his own restaurants where he was the head chef. My mom, ran the front of house. So by the time I was maybe about, 7, 8 years old, I was already pretty sure that I never wanted to work in hospitality and certainly never, ever wanted to have my own business. Just the sacrifice was just too much. So it wasn't love at first sight, but now, later on, I actually, when it was time to go to university, I enrolled in law studies, I enrolled in architectural studies, as well as the hotel management school. And in the end, I did choose the hotel management school. And I guess the main reason was this enormous desire to leave this little country called Holland and discover the world. And I guess that's why I ended up at the hotel management school and it took off directly after that.
Wow. I love what you're saying because it's really funny, right? Those formative experiences in our youth really define us. And a lot of it is in us rebelling and saying, I don't want to do anything that my parents do. But it seeped back in. Not only did you end up in hospitality, but you ended up as a really brilliant entrepreneur as well. And talking about leaving Holland, Dutch is obviously your native language. But I know from knowing you from all these years, you speak fluent English, French, German, and Spanish. And I imagine, obviously, moving around from these various hotel roles has helped develop your language skills. But in your opinion, what is the secret to mastering multiple languages? Because for me, as someone who speaks one language, or maybe two, if you consider American English and British English 2 different languages, which you definitely should consider them 2 different languages, I'm always fascinated by this. I think it's incredible that you're able to speak this many languages and think in this many languages. So how do you do it?
Well, there's not much secret except for just the exposure to it, right? And I know that people often say that the Dutch have talent to speak several languages, but I'm not sure if it's really a talent thing. It's more of a cultural heritage, right? Holland has always been a successful trade nation for centuries. And still today, if you want to be successful in Holland, the country still depends a lot on international trade. So it just comes with the culture, and but also kids in Holland, when you grow up, you do get exposed a lot more to foreign languages when you're young, as you would in many other countries, because like media, TV, movies, they don't get dubbed. It's all in the original language. It goes with subtitles. So that's really helpful for kids just to get to listen into languages from a very early age. I do think maybe one tip, what is very critical, when you move to a different country and you live in a different country and you want to pick up the language, it's just to fully immerse yourself, right? You have to start from day one and listening to the local news and reading local newspapers, and really don't be afraid. You have to lose all the shame. It's if you start every conversation with apologizing, then the other party switches to your language and you won't get there. So just, immerse yourself, throw yourself fully in it, and just go for it, and then have fun with it. And I guess that's the only really secret. There's no other.
Yeah, I saw that firsthand when I moved to the UK, when, meeting friends from all over the world, what you're saying about movies and television and being really used to watching things in subtitles in their native language. That's not something that, most Americans that I'm aware of are familiar with. I mean, I think it was probably Squid Games that made a lot of people watch something subtitled for the first time. So I think that exposure, and I know a mutual friend of ours actually from the hotel industry, she's from Peru originally. She speaks French, English, and Spanish. And she was telling me it's not so difficult to necessarily learn the language, but it was difficult to be able to be herself in the different languages, like to share her sense of humor and the way that she would talk in her native tongue. Is that something that you also found came later?
Well, I do guess, yeah, there is still a difference between, being able to have a, fluent conversation in a language, which, after 6 months living somewhere, you can do quite well, but really to understand the finesse of a language, of the humor, of the culture, that really takes years and years. So, yeah. I fully agree. That's next level. Yeah.
Yeah. You've obviously moved around a lot throughout your career, working for a variety of incredible hotels. But I have to imagine that one of the most exciting jobs that you've had was being the general manager for W Barcelona. And that was the very first W hotel to open in Europe, I believe. It really became an icon from the start because of that amazing construction of the hotel. And you were there from pre-opening through launch and even beyond that. So what was it like to open what was widely considered one of the hottest hotels of the time?
Well, yeah, and it definitely was one of the most rewarding experiences I had in my career. It was very high adrenaline. We had like 9 months to operationally get a 500-room hotel ready, to hire, to train 500 talent, and assure it opened on time and on brand. That it was and still is actually a leased hotel, so it also had a significant financial exposure for the company. And this was really shortly. The opening was in 2009, so it was really shortly after the 2008 financial market crisis. And Barcelona, like any city around the world, was significantly affected at the time. And so it was a enormous pressure to get the hotel open on time and on brand and on budget. And at the time as well, even locally in the local press, I got asked all the time, like, does Barcelona really need another 5-star hotel? And on top, such a huge one. There's a crisis ongoing, and the consistent media reply was, obviously, we had some PR specialist. Maybe it was you even telling me that, but the answer was like, no, maybe not, but it does need a W, and it's proven to be right. So, but yeah, besides obviously commercially launching the hotel, it was also a launch of the brand in Europe, as you said, and the concept of lifestyle hotels was still relatively new in Europe, And actually, it's been great to see how the brand has kept evolving. And by now, Marriott actually has 9 W's in operation in Europe, and there's 2 more coming, Florence and Sardinia opening this year. So it's been great to witness how the brand, kept evolving and kept being successful. So I'm very grateful about the experience, absolutely.
And something you touched on there was about W Barcelona being a leased hotel. And there are obviously 3 different types of hotel ownerships, if you will. There's owned, leased, managed and franchise, I guess. So if is that correct? Like, is that how you would break that down? And what are the nuances of opening a leased hotel versus a different version?
Well, the nuance obviously for the company was that they have the full, P&L responsibility and the bottom line. And indeed, in my various positions, in regional positions within Starwood or Marriott, you didn't manage or run a mix of, in many cases, managed properties. That was the large majority. But we also still have some leased hotels in our portfolio and managed and, of course, franchise hotels. So, it's a leased property. Obviously gives on one side the additional dimension that from an asset management perspective, you're responsible until the net operating income. And from a management perspective, the operator of the hotel, in that case, the hotel company, is basically responsible until the gross operating profit.
Mm-hmm. And given it's leased, is the owner of the actual asset involved as well?
The owner of the asset obviously has involvement in the property, but not in the daily operation of the property.
Okay.
So it doesn't have any influence on commercial decisions, on the way the hotel is operated, on hiring or firing. That's really purely the responsibility of the lessee.
Yeah, but I imagine you, in this project specifically, as well as in many of the other jobs that you've held, it's a lot of different stakeholder management, right? You have the actual hotel company who, like you said, is caring about the P&L. You have the brand team who really wants to make sure that you're bringing W to life. You have the asset owner, you have all of your employees, of course, contractors on site. How do you think about that as a general manager with all of these different stakeholders really looking to you and wanting different things from you?
Yeah, well, and of course, then the customers. Let's not
and the
forget
customers,
those.
most importantly, once you're open.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is on one side, the beauty of the job. That's what makes it so interesting. But yes, it does give you a pressure to satisfy all those stakeholders. And that's really the balancing act that you're in as a general manager, or also as a executive for a hotel company, is to try to, balance the interest of all those different parties.
What are some things that you did while you were leading W Barcelona, whether it be for the pre-opening or the opening period, or even just in day-to-day operations, that you think every GM should replicate?
Well, there was definitely, a lot of learnings when you open such a large hotel, not only when opening the W Barcelona, but probably after that in my various roles at Starwood and Marriott, opened probably another 12 or so hotels in the last couple of years. But specifically for the W Barcelona, there were a couple of relearnings. And don't forget, this is 16 years ago. It was 2009. So one key learning was certainly about recruitment. Recruitment is obviously extremely critical in a hotel opening. At the time, we really made this conscious decision to hire only really on-brand talent, people that really represented the brand's values and culture. And it in many cases means, hiring people without any previous hospitality experience. Today's many hotels are hiring associates that don't have any experience, but that's rather due to the tight labor market. And at the time, it was really a conscious choice and rather unusual approach in the industry. And this obviously, also puts additional strain on resources. More training is required. And I must admit as well, this did, increase the ramp-up period to get to the required service levels. But it did absolutely pay off. The energy was so incredibly contagious. And this was one of the major factors in becoming a true lifestyle destination. Just the the talent we hired. It was just differentiated. And so my advice to any GM or hotel operator would really be that you can't really dictate your associates or your staff or your talent or whatever you call it to be genuine or cool or whatever or sophisticated. You can only hire people that are that, and then you need to train them the skills. You need to train them the processes, and then most importantly, you need to keep them motivated and engaged. So you can't really manage great service, but you can manage the great culture.
The next time you're traveling or celebrating an important occasion, book a Flytographer photo shoot. They make it easy to capture memories by connecting you with hand-picked professional photographers in over 350 destinations around the world. I should know. Capturing memories with family and friends is super important to me, and I've booked Flytographers from Maine to Paris to London. A Flytographer shoot is an essential part of every trip I plan. They also have an incredible affiliate and travel advisor program. Add a photo shoot to your customer's next itinerary and earn 10% commission. Visit flytographer.com/sweet success for $25 off your first shoot or to sign up as an affiliate or travel advisor. That's FLYTOGRAPHER.com/sweet, like hotel suite success. And since it wasn't based on experience, what made you look at an applicant and say, you are on brand for what we're looking for?
Yeah, it was really about the differentiated approach to service delivery. We had the famous whatever, whenever service philosophy, and it all circled around that. This different approach, this different understanding of lifestyle, how you can make it to life. We looked for people who were able to bring this service philosophy to life in the day-to-day operation. Maybe a couple more. I guess I have a few more learnings. As in, one was extremely important, and I'm sure you can relate to that. I think another really key decision to the success was the professionalizing of the marketing within the hotel. So the W Barcelona was an early adopter when it came to a more strategic approach to hotel marketing, and this really paid off. I guess it's time. All hotels still had the traditional director of sales and marketing, which in most cases was a director with a pure 100% sales background and without really much knowledge of marketing. And marketing is a completely different discipline. It would be like, hiring a director of finance and let the person also, when they have some spare time, deal with HR. It doesn't work like that. We appointed, besides a director of sales, an executive committee level director of marketing. And 16 years ago, that was actually, one of the first hotels in the company, but probably also in the industry to do so. And it's also fair to say that not only in the decision to create a really standalone marketing department, but also the good fortune to be able to recruit George Fleck, who made a difference. So George, by now, is the SVP and global brand leader for the W Edition and St. Regis brand, and he also absolutely played a key role in the activation and successful positioning of the hotel. And afterwards,
he was the first marketing director for W Barcelona. Is that correct?
He was the first marketing director.
Wow.
The opening marketing director. I was on a tour through the US to get to know the W brand, because there was none in Europe yet. And when I was in Atlanta, at the W Atlanta, I met George. We got into a conversation. He was director of sales and marketing at the time, but he had such an amazing passion for the brand that, I managed to persuade him to come to Barcelona and open the hotel with me as the director of marketing. And
wow. I mean, not a tough sell to work for you and move to Barcelona, especially with his European roots. But this is what I love about this industry is George is, one of the most influential people in hospitality, you could say right now. He is a brilliant marketer, brilliant leader. And to hear that career progression it's not rare in our world. It happens all the time. And that's what's so exciting for people who want to join this industry is you can start at what other industries might consider the bottom or in lower positions. And you can end up in roles like yourself and George one day. I mean, that's really inspirational.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's also, I guess, for for every executive in the hotel industry, but even for every general manager. That's not the greatest legacy you can leave behind, right? Nobody will remember in 20 years how much GOP you did, but people will remember if you help them forward in their career or just give them opportunity to prove themselves. And in 99% of the cases, they do, right? And so yeah, no, absolutely. But getting back to the opening of the W Barcelona, I think there's one more thing which is so critical in opening of hotels and what we really learned there, and that is that you really have to take some calculated risks. And I've seen it in many openings afterwards. There's always a reason to doubt the opening date. There's always a tick missing on the critical path, but it is really, really important that, at some point you make a call and you open up the systems and start selling with confidence early enough. Because if you wait too long and cover all the ifs and buts, your ramp up will just be too long, which will have a considerable financial impact for the property. So you need to find that right balance and make some trade-offs. It's never perfect, but you need to open the hotel and get business on the books. For example, the W Barcelona, we opened in October 2009, and actually we opened that hotel on the first day fully booked, all 500 rooms occupied. We had a conference in the hotel with from a large consultancy with about 250 rooms, and the rest just filled up with transient. Then we had a banquet in the first evening, and the restaurant and the bars were full because there was so much anticipation in the local community who wanted to get to know the hotel. So it was completely crazy. But did it go perfect? No, it didn't. But it just went good enough because people love to be part of the birth of a new hotel, of a new hospitality icon, and they are forgiving in the beginning. 3 months later, no, but in the first couple of days, they're forgiving. So that was an amazing experience, and also this pressure already knowing months in advance that the hotel is going to be very busy from day one. Just give that additional pressure to project management, to construction companies to accelerate their part of it and just get ready and open. And that, I guess, was a fantastic learning. And then of course, last but certainly not least, it's the hiring of your team. That is absolutely critical. And not only, to obviously hire the best people in the business, but also what is critical to hire people that complement you, that complement your flaws, because no GM is really an expert in every aspect of the business. And what is also key is once you have hired the right people, you set the vision, you set the boundaries, but then you really have to let them go. You have to let them go and run with it. There's so much to do in a hotel opening. And if you want to control every step on the way, you will lose the oversight and you will fail. So don't accept mediocrity, hire the best people and let them go on with it.
There's so many interesting insights that you just shared in that story. And one that I want to go back to is about the roles that you held after opening W Barcelona. How do you see the differences between working in a hotel, like a general manager position, versus working for a hotel company in the corporate office, which you did various roles after that position?
Yeah, well, obviously, the biggest difference is that you need to balance things out. Now, it's more, you have to shift your focus to more long-term strategy, to portfolio-wide thinking, portfolio-wide performance. Brand integrity, you get much more involved in development, in brand initiatives, in market positioning, and obviously what we talked about before, you need to be very close to all the stakeholders, investors, customers, associates. It's more about strategic planning and long-term growth. But this implicitly means as well, because in the end of the day, you have P&L responsibility for like 40 or 50 hotels or so. And so if you are responsible for such a large portfolio of hotels, there's only one way to get there. And that's the most important thing you can do. as a corporate VP is really to get the right general manager in each and every hotel, because the GMs, on the end of the day, they are the most important people in my mind in the hotel business. They're not the head office executives, they're the general managers. They make and break the hotel.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's something we really learned at Starwood, and that was felt in the corporate office. Like, there would be no corporate jobs if it wasn't for these hotels. And these hotels will be made or not made, broken by a good or a not great GM. So when you were recruiting for GMs, having had been a GM yourself, what were the things that you looked for in general managers? And it goes back a bit to what you were talking about with recruitment for your team for W Barcelona, I'd imagine, of like not necessarily looking for experience, but maybe looking for something else.
Yes, well, obviously you need in an executive, position where you recruit an executive team or where you recruit later on general managers. Obviously, you need knowledge, you need certain skills, but just as important is, for me, an entrepreneurial approach. I think a general manager needs to feel the hotel has to be it's all business. Take decisions that he or she would take when it would be his or her own hotel. So this entrepreneurial spirit to go out there to get the business, to do the right thing, to be a good and ethical and decent and motivating leader, to give the right example. I think that on the end of the day is what makes a general manager successful or not. More as, being an expert in each and every discipline of a hotel.
I want to talk also a little bit about what you were talking about with relationships, and with George, for example, going back to his days as the marketing director for the hotel. I have been spending a lot of time thinking about the power of one's network. And actually, when I first started my career, I was the assistant at a fashion designer to the SVP fashion director at the time. Incredible businesswoman, incredible mentor. Yeah. And I would look around at the people that she knew or was friends with, or the connections she had. And I just thought, wow, she knows everyone. She knows all these senior people. And then your brain starts to give you all these reasons why that's the case for her and not the case for you, right? So, it's because she grew up in Manhattan, or, it's because of who her family is. And what I've really realized very recently, actually, is by and large, a lot of it is like they grew up together. And I don't mean like in the childhood form, I mean in the career form. And I think about that a lot now with this podcast, with having people like yourself, all these colleagues and friends that I've collected throughout my career, get to come back on and have conversations with. And it I think is something really special from the hospitality industry. And that story with George and you is a perfect example of it. So I imagine that these relationships have played a pivotal role in your creation and your execution of now RICHMANS Advisory Group. Tell us a little bit about the company and how these relationships are helping to bring it to life.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I've been also extremely lucky in my career throughout Starwood, and then it continued throughout Marriott, to have an amazing amount of leaders that have mentored me throughout my career, and many of them actually developed to hospitality icons themselves. Many of them, and you will know many of those names who have become CEOs in well-known hotel companies around the world. And I mean, it started off for me all with Bernard Lambert, who was the president of Marriott, who was an amazing mentor for me. And then I had many mentors in Starwood, from Roland Vos, a very inspirational leader, to Oliver Bonke and Michael Will and Guido de Wilde and Philippe Cassis and Phil McAvity. And they're all incredibly inspiring leaders. But also in my last years in Marriott, Gonzalo Aguilar, who has been my boss over the last years, before I left Marriott. He's currently the president of Minor. Sandeep Balia, the COO of Luxury for EMEA. Satya Anand, the president for EMEA. They've all been, incredible, supportive to me. They gave me their trust. They gave me incredible development opportunities. And I'm, very grateful to all of them, and actually in regular contact with all the above mentioned. So it has been, very enriching, and it does make indeed the industry incredibly great to be in. And so, yeah, before I took this step and leave my, let's say, corporate career and start up my own advisory firm, I spoke to all of them and asked their opinions and picked their brains and get learnings and insights. And just they were really supportive, which basically inspired me, to follow my dream and start my own company.
It's full circle from what you talked about earlier of rebuffing hospitality, rebuffing entrepreneurship. And now here you are leading the charge in your own business.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that, always you have somewhere in the back of your mind, you want to do it at some point. And I felt now it was, the sweet spot for me. Maybe, enough experience and career to be able to make this step, have enough experience in the various facets of the business, to know where to start and what to do, but also probably still enough leadway ahead of me to really build up something. So I felt it was the sweet spot, and very recently took this step. And
I like what you're saying. I think a lot of people have that kind of secret dream in the back of their mind. In the hotel industry, we hear a lot about people being like, well, one day if I could own my own hotel, I would do things differently, or like yourself, starting a business. So was it scary to do it? And what were the things that made you say, I'm going to do it anyway?
Well, scary? No, I think, after 30 plus years in a corporate career, it just naturally grow towards it. And it's like, hey, it's my time to do it and throw myself in it. And it's just exciting. It's fun. It's so far I'm still in early days, but I'm enjoying it immensely. And your connection with the industry and the network remains. So you're still very much part of it. So no, I'm really fully enjoying it so far.
It sounds like a natural evolution in that case. Tell me a bit about the types of clients that you're working with and what services you're offering.
Yeah, well, so RICHMANS, as you mentioned earlier, it's a boutique advisory, so focusing on Europe, mainly on the European hotel market. That's where my experience and knowledge and strength is, and so we basically offer tailored advisory as well as consultancy and also asset management services to hotel owners, to operators, to investors. So in many cases that can be private equity, but it can also be smaller hotel companies, individual hotel owners, but also certain projects for larger hotel companies. And so services that include or might include will go from the viability or planning stage of a hotel or a portfolio of hotels, so including the market analysis, feasibility, conceptualization of hotels. So basically, putting a hotel program together. It will include operating model advisory. So would a certain asset be best served as a managed property or a franchise property or an affiliation model, or maybe with a white label operator, or it could be independently operated. And of course, with that comes a discussion around, about brand, about the selection of a management company. So I could support with that. I do support with that, but also advising then on operational design, on food and beverage, on well-being concepts, proposing partners for those areas of expertise. But a lot of the work will also be, the operations and implementation. So really existing assets, assisting in asset management oversights, owner representation, pre and post opening support, implementation of concepts, budget planning, financial planning, operation and quality audit, commercial reviews, financial analysis, organizational reviews. So property improvement plan. So you could summarize it really as advising on strategies to either launch or transform or elevate a business.
Keeping up with online reviews across platforms is tough. But FeedCheck makes it easier by bringing all reviews from all channels into one place. In addition to tracking your own feedback, you can even monitor competitors to see how you compare. They provide deep insights into customer sentiment, trending topics, common issues, and patterns that might otherwise be overlooked. Plus, real-time alerts mean you can respond quickly before things escalate, and AI-powered suggestions help you craft better responses. So, if you want to stay ahead of your reputation, book a demo with FeedCheck at feedcheck.co/sweetsuccess or through the link in the podcast notes. It sounds like a lot, but actually each of the things that you're talking about are all parts of the role that you had, even just as a general manager, all of those different facets, all of those stakeholder management. And I imagine particularly to private equity, to asset owners, your experience has to be so appealing to them because you've been on the other side of the fence. You've been kind of on both sides of the fence, right? So to be able to work with you and understand, well, what are the positives of hiring a management company and which brand should I look at? And really, what does that mean for my ROI? That's got to be invaluable.
Yep. Well, I hope so, because that's my business model.
What's been the most surprising part of launching the business?
The most surprising part, I would say, is that I really, got approached from corners where I didn't really expect that quickly from other consultancy companies or asset management companies or executive search companies who were actually interested to partner with you if they have larger projects where they could use somebody with a certain insight, which they might probably not directly have that resources in-house. So partnering with professionals in the business, and I didn't really expect that so much, but I find that a very interesting approach, and I'm working with some professionals in the business in partnering up with them for very specific projects.
Yeah, I think that really speaks again to the power of your network and your reputation that you've built throughout your career. I know you had mentioned that Richmans is really focusing on Europe. Obviously, you've lived so many places in Europe. So talk about the places that you've lived and what is it about Barcelona that really makes Barcelona home to you?
Well, what is it not, right? I mean, it's it has really everything, but there's the obvious attractions of the city, that any visitor to Barcelona is familiar with, the richness and culture, the architecture, the arts, of course, the gastronomy, the soccer, FC Barcelona, the music festivals. It's just, all of it is just absolute world class. And then you got the Mediterranean climate, the Mediterranean diet, the outdoor life. It's just a very laid back city, but at the same time extremely energetic. But on top of that, and not everybody knows that's also to live in this city. It has just incredible modern amenities. It has top quality medical care. It has excellent education. It's a great hub for innovation, for startups. It's very centrally located in Europe, obviously. The airport is very close to the city. There's excellent flight connections. Actually, in my last position I have actually counted it, and in my last positions with Marriott, I had somewhere between 40 and 50 hotels in my responsibility, and I could fly to each and every one of them with a direct flight out of Barcelona, which if you fly every week, that has an enormous value.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. I'm so jealous now being back in New York with JFK as my main hub. It makes the process of flying horrible. I have to say, I hate that airport so much. And everyone will probably say, well, why don't you go to LaGuardia? Especially for me, I live super, super close to LaGuardia. There's no direct flights out of LaGuardia. And like you said, you really need those direct if you're flying a lot. Not that I'm flying super a lot these days, but still, a good airport makes a big difference to the livability of a city.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So with your background and with having your finger on the pulse right now with Richmans, what are you seeing as some key trends for the industry for this year?
Well, I think, yeah, probably if you look at it from an economical trend perspective, I mean, I'm very positive, and the year is starting off well. That, despite the economic uncertainties that are still out there, that, consumers will continue to prioritize travel over other expenditures. And so we will maintain to have a really healthy demand across European hotels. And also from an investment perspective, investors are expected to capitalize on the current market conditions as well, especially in Southern Europe. It's anticipated that there will be many hotel acquisitions. There will be some decent merger and acquisitions activity. I think especially, as said, in Southern Europe, countries like Spain and Portugal and Italy and Greece, but also in the luxury segment, will still be on top of the list for investors. On the downside, though, I think the labor challenges will still persist. The industry, continues to struggle with the labor shortages, which will force hotel operators, to explore other solutions, technological solutions, enhanced training programs, etc., etc. But yeah, I think there will be an increased competition, and the companies that put enough emphasis on improving employee satisfaction and return and reduce will reduce the turnover rates, and there will be competition for the best talent out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, also I guess if you look at the trends more from from key travel trend perspective, I think we will probably see a couple of trends continuing that have set in the last year or two. And one of them will be the continued growth of luxury, where we talked about before, and experimental travel. The increasing global wealth will definitely, assist in that. And there will be some sub-segments or sub-trends, like, for example, quiet luxury is one of those, right? Where, you talk about those personal and understated and unique and curated hotel experiences that will be on the rise. But I think an interesting one is that business travel is definitely on the way back, against all predictions a couple of years back. The face-to-face interactions are irreplaceable, and in-person meeting and events are coming back strong, which is, great news for the industry. I think the continued blending of business and leisure travel will persist. People, will continue with their flexible work arrangements, and just, take longer breaks, hang a leisure break onto a business trip, stay for 3 nights after. I think that will be a trend that won't go away for hopefully a very long time. The wellness and well-being and sustainable tourism will continue on the rise. Also there will be new niches like things like psychedelic retreats and things like that. And of course, the integrations of advanced technologies. I think in 2025 we will really see how artificial intelligence kicks in the hotels, and what differences will that drive within the hotels. I think for now this will probably mostly still be towards the AI driven search and booking tools, and within the hotels it will still be a lot about back of house systems, about increasing productivity, but also that will have impact on the guest experience, because with the AI you can improve your guest information tools, and that in the end of the day will result in more knowledge about your customers, and will definitely improve the guest experience. So yeah, a lot to come, and excited for the year and years ahead.
You talked about competition for talent, which is something we've been hearing about really since COVID. And you also mentioned about flexible work and how that's going to be, a good thing for the hotel industry in the terms of travelers wanting to stay longer or visit more destinations. Do you think the fact that most hotel positions are on site and are not that kind of remote work, do you think that is adding to the competition for talent in the industry? Or do you think this is just us catching up after what happened during COVID?
Well, it obviously, the essence of the hotel business is this personal contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, you need to be in the hotel, and therefore leadership needs to be in the hotel. So that is, I guess that is a disadvantage for the industry compared to other industries where people, have more of this freedom to work a couple of days a week from home. There is a couple of disciplines in the hotels where this can and is happening as well. But when you talk about the operation, when you talk about the service delivery, the industry needs to find ways to compensate for that and to make to make and keep the industry exciting and really a people's choice to grow and learn and make a career in the industry. Because I do really truly believe that it is an industry where young people with the right attitude and the right knowledge and the right passion for the business can also make a beautiful career, an extremely quick career. It can be extremely rewarding.
And going to, especially the luxury and lifestyle hotels for work every day is definitely not comparable to sitting in a very ugly office space. So maybe at least we have that on our side.
Absolutely. There's a lot to enjoy as well.
Well, Richard, I want to ask you the last three questions that I ask everyone. And the first is, what was the best hospitality experience that you've ever had?
That's a very tough one, right? But actually, let me stay a bit close to Barcelona, to Catalonia. It's that Catalonia is known for its extraordinary chefs. And by example, a dinner I had a while ago in Sala de Can Roca, which was at the time a number one on the world's best restaurants list. It was just, you go to a lot of good restaurants and you think, hey, what can this, 3 Michelin star restaurant be so much better as the other 2 Michelin star restaurant? But it was just, wow, out of the world, like on a different planet. And Barcelona has a lot to offer there. You also have your Ricus at the Abac. You have this Futar, which at the moment is the number one in world's best restaurant. So I would like to pay a tribute to those chefs. This craftsmanship, that absolute complete dedication and devotion to quality and the ability to deliver, consistently at such a high level. I just have a huge respect for those chefs. And I actually, I remember a conversation I had one day with Alba Adria, which is, one of the stars from the Catalonia chef community. We were talking about, his latest project, and he explained to me with his usual passion about, the food he's going to serve and the concept of the food and the service and the sourcing and where he will get his fish from and the design and the ambience. And then I asked him, okay, well, great. When are you going to open your restaurant and where it's going to be? And what really struck me, he said he didn't know yet because he didn't have a location. And this was, incredible to me because you come from a hotel world where, you start with, you build a hotel and then, you have probably various restaurants and bars and the spaces are designed and the kitchens are planned. But often, at that time, you haven't even decided on the concept of a food direction yet. But for those world's, best chefs and restaurant brands, it all, starts and is centered around the food concept and their passion for the food and for the project and for the craftsmanship. So that was really a learning for me. So location, of course, is super important. But I think what I learned from that is that, if you have truly something exceptional to offer, it's not all about the location. People will come wherever you are.
And being so clear on your vision before you even have the brick and mortar to support it.
Absolutely. Just this complete detailed vision, this detailed planning of every element of the experience. It's really, an incredible learning process.
So on the opposite side of that, what was the worst hospitality experience you've ever had?
Oof, that's well, I guess that is all around you, right? So what sometimes bezels me is, the amount of companies and they apparently survive, but they completely lost the connection to the associates and to the customers. And they seem to have no processes whatsoever in place to understand what the customers actually want or like. A simple example for me is, the coffee shops in the airports. That there's that many that today still don't offer plant-based milk. So how many customers would ask them every day? 10%, 20%. So for a coffee shop in an airport, it could be like 100 people asking them every day, hey, do we have soy milk, or do we have, oat milk? And still, is there any logical explanation why they wouldn't have a bottle in their fridge? So it seems that those processes are completely broken, that those companies completely, lost the focus, lost the connection to their associates. And that really bezels me. And that happens to you every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And final question for you. What does hospitality mean to you? And is there any one person, a brand that you think has truly mastered it?
Well, I think hospitality, what it means to me is obviously, the care, the warmth, the generosity, and making others feel welcome, if it's, at home or in your hotel or your restaurant or in your shop. And hospitality is really, you hear this a lot, creating meaningful experience or creating, true exceptional experiences. And it's became a bit of a buzzword and everybody uses it, but not that many, companies or that actually are good at delivering it. But it is about that, right? It's about the attention to detail, anticipating needs, and delivering those true exceptional experiences. But to do that, you acquire taste, you acquire craftsmanship, you acquire a strong culture, you acquire strong leadership, of course, flawless execution. And I must say that, over the last years, a brand where I've been very involved with and worked very closely with, which for me, I am confident to say that they really mastered it, is the Edition brand. From their ethos to the service, the product standards, the design, the attention to detail, when it comes to lighting or sound or botanicals, so just everything communicates in that brand. It's extremely consistent. So I have a huge respect for that brand, how this brand has been, conceived, but also how it's growing and it's not losing any of those focuses.
It's amazing. Well, Richard, it's been so lovely to see you again. Thank you again for joining us today. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was a huge pleasure, Katie.
All right, everyone, it's time for today's sweet summary, where I break down the key insights and actionable takeaways from today's conversation. It was so much fun to catch up with Richard, hearing his perspective as someone who has worked on every side of the industry, as a GM in a corporate role, and now as an entrepreneur working with asset owners and venture capitalists, makes him uniquely positioned to see decisions from all different angles. One of the standout themes from our conversation was the power of exposure. He first mentioned this in the context of learning languages. Growing up in Holland, he constantly heard multiple languages, watched TV and movies in different languages, and saw others learning to speak languages as well. He was also exposed to both the hospitality industry and entrepreneurship thanks to his father. While he initially pushed back, as most kids do when their parents take an interest in something, it's amazing to see how those early influences ultimately shaped his career. Richard also talked about how being a great GM is a constant balancing act. You have a complex web of stakeholders, a management company, an asset owner, associates, food and beverage partners, spa operators, and of course, travelers, all with different expectations and priorities. And while that can certainly sound intimidating, to Richard, that is the beauty of the job. I loved his take on recruitment. Hire the best people, those who truly embody your brand's values and culture. Sharpen your ability to recognize talent, even if it means hiring people without direct industry experience. He believes it's more important to find people with the right attributes and then train them in the processes and procedures rather than the other way around. And once you've hired those people, step aside. Empower them to think like entrepreneurs. Trust them to act in the best interests of your guests. And let them do their jobs. It's like his airport coffee shop example. If leadership actually listened to their frontline staff, they'd be stocking plant-based milk by now. Overall, my biggest takeaway was you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to have a strong vision. Like the Michelin-starred chef he referenced, or W Barcelona opening on day one with all 500 rooms booked, or Richard's approach to learning languages. Drop the shame, jump right in, and immerse yourself. And that concludes another episode of Sweet Success. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We all know how important those 5-star reviews are. I also want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. It means the absolute world to me. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for future guests, new topics to cover, or even just want to say hi, don't be shy. Message me through our website, sweetsuccesspodcast.com, or on social media @sweetsuccesspodcast. That's sweet like hotel suite. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Cline, and I'm super excited to see you all next week.